Welcome to the Venus frequency, a Venus butterfly transmission. I'm so glad you're here. In this frequency, we choose clarity over confusion, presence over performance, and alignment over effort. We listen, we soften, we shift the frequency.
Frequency, feel it living, soft as a spell out of my reach. Butterfly energy, I don't chase, I receive. The Venus frequency.
Metamorphs, vibe with me on this because today I have three more very important questions for you as we enter into the 11th transmission of what Venus taught us during her transit in Taurus. And listen, my lovelies, this one is for everybody who has ever explained, then re explained, clarified, softened, reworded, apologized, added some context for the sensitive Susies in the back, sent a paragraph, then sent a follow up paragraph, and then still sat there wondering if they said it right enough to finally be understood. So lean in because this frequency is about to meet the part of you that has been exhausting yourself trying to make the wrong ears become safe. So, question number one is, have you been over explaining yourself to people who keep benefiting from not understanding you? Think about that. Because if that one made you lean with it and rock with it, I want you to stay with me because question number two is about to ask why you keep turning clarity into a whole dissertation just to feel safe. Question number two is, have you been adding more words, tap dancing around your truth because you fear it won't be received unless you make it easier on the ears? Okay. Now, if that one hit a nerve, I want you to stay right here because question three is going to meet the part of you that is tired of explaining what should have already been clear. You feel me? And finally, question number three is, are you ready to stop turning your clarity into a Broadway production for people who already heard you the first time? If you answered yes, party people, then you just might be ready for the frequency of dun, 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 stop over explaining. Because metamorphs, what is clear does not need to be begged into understanding. And what is sacred does not need to keep pleading for permission to exist. So you already know how this goes. I need to holler at you for a second or two because it is time for you to stop over explaining. And I know you felt that in your spirit. And if it made you sit up and say, now wait a dang blasted minute now, Venus. I mean, I'm supposed to just say what I mean and let that be on, period. And I'm going to answer you with truth. Lean in. The answer is yes. Yes, my love. That is exactly what I mean. Because sometimes, the issue is not that you failed to explain yourself. Sometimes the issue is that the other person benefits from making you explain yourself until you are too tired to stand on your boundary. Sometimes the issue is not that your need was unclear. Sometimes the issue is that your clarity interrupted a pattern they were comfortable with. Yeah. Sometimes the issue is not that your words were too sharp. Sometimes the issue is that your truth had some sharp edges and they were used to you sanding yourself down just to keep the peace. And baby, in this season, we are not sanding ourselves down until we disappear. Not in the body, not in the bank, not in the boundary, and not in the bond. Because needs are information. And once the need has been spoken clearly, the next practice is trusting that your clarity does not require a courtroom defense. You do not have to turn every boundary into a PowerPoint presentation, and you do not have to turn your no into an essay. So, party people, you hear me and hear me clearly, because you do not have to keep explaining why something hurt you to someone who keeps needing your pain translated into language that benefits them. Okay. And you do not have to keep proving your needs are reasonable before you are allowed to require that folks honor them. Because over-explaining is not always communication. No. Sometimes over-explaining is really fear wearing a microphone. It's the fear of being misunderstood, fear of being dismissed, fear of being called difficult, fear of being abandoned. And people, it is sometimes fear that if you do not explain it perfectly, the truth will not be allowed to stand. And I want to say this gently. Sometimes we over-explain because at some point our truth simply just did not have a safe space to land. Hey, I'm going to say that again. Sometimes we over-explain because at some point our truth simply just did not have a safe space to land. Maybe you had to justify your feelings. Maybe you had to argue for your needs. Maybe you had to make your pain sound polite in order to be taken seriously. And I know I'm talking to somebody out there on that. Maybe you had to explain why you were tired, why you were hurt. You had to explain why that made you feel uncomfortable, why you needed help. You found yourself explaining why you needed space and why you needed care. Maybe you learned that being believed required a performance. So what did you do? You started tap dancing and river dancing instead of speaking your truth. So now, when you speak your truth, your nervous system starts adding extra words to protect you. Your nervous system will have you saying things like, maybe if I explain it better, they will finally understand me. Maybe if I give it more context, they won't get mad. Maybe if I make it softer, they won't leave me. Maybe if I make myself smaller and quieter, they will still love me. But my love, a truth that requires your disappearance is not safety, my loves. A boundary that only gets respected after you collapse is not respect. And baby, a need that has to be expressed like an apology to be received is giving you some much, 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 much needed information. Please know that the right fit may not always agree. The right fit may not always be able to meet your every need. The right fit, sometimes that right fit is still going to require a conversation. But the right fit will not have you fighting for your life just to be heard. And that right there is the difference. Because there is communication, and then there is also over functioning. Let me explain it. Communication says, here's what I feel, here's what I need, and here is what I cannot do. You feel me? Hear that. Overexplaining says, please don't punish me for having a limit. Does that sound familiar? Communication, my loves, brings clarity. Overexplaining tries to control the response. Communication honors what is true. Overexplaining tries to make the truth feel less threatening. Communication invites understanding. Overexplaining got you out here begging for permission. And metamorphs, embodied value is not begging for permission. Nope, nope, nope. Embodied value says, I can be clear without being cruel, brief without being cold, honest without overperforming softness, kind without making my boundary negotiable, and I can give context without giving my power away. Because yes, sometimes, context is helpful. Yes, sometimes an explanation is necessary. Repair sometimes requires a conversation. This is not about becoming silent, harsh, or emotionally unavailable. No, ma'am, no, sir. What this is about, it is about knowing when enough has been said, when the explanation has become self-abandonment, and when you are no longer communicating because what you are doing instead is auditioning for empathy. And baby, honey, that, my loves, is where the standard lives. Because sometimes you are not explaining to be understood. Sometimes you are explaining because you are trying to avoid someone else's disappointment. Sit with that for a second. Because sometimes you are explaining because you are trying to prevent rejection. Don't nobody like that feeling. Nope. And then sometimes it'll have you explaining yourself because you are trying to convince yourself that if they finally understand, that maybe you will not have to make the decision that your body already knows is coming. Mm-hmm. And that right there, my party people, that is information. Because if someone keeps requiring more words while offering no change behavior, that is information. If someone keeps misunderstanding what you said plainly and clearly, that is information. If someone only respects your boundary after you have emotionally exhausted yourself, that is information. If someone makes your needs sound unreasonable so they do not have to face their lack of capacity, that, my loves, is information. If your body feels drained every time you try to be understood by them, that again is information. And in this season, we are letting information inform us. We are not turning information into a 12-page essay. Because a butterfly does not go back to the cocoon with a signed statement proving that she was allowed to leave. No, that butterfly, she flies. She gets on up out of there. Not because she hates the cocoon, but because she has outgrown it. And some of us have outgrown the belief that our truth needs a permission slip. So we can go ahead and let that belief stay in the cocoon, please and thank you. Because you are allowed to say, that does not work for me. I'm going to need more clarity on that. No, I'm not available for this. I need some time to think about that. This doesn't feel safe for me. I'm not explaining this again. I have already said what I needed to say. No, no, and more no. And you are allowed to let it end on that. You are allowed to stop typing. You are allowed to stop editing that message until your truth disappears. You are allowed to stop making your no sound like a maybe. You are allowed to stop making your boundary sound like a suggestion. You are allowed to stop making your pain sound convenient. And my lovelies, you are allowed to stop making your needs sound smaller than they really are. Because your clarity deserves protection. Your nervous system, it deserves fewer negotiations. Your peace deserves fewer paragraphs. And your body deserves to know that you will not keep sending it back into the same exhausting conversation, hoping that this time your worth will finally be recognized. Because what is aligned does not require you to abandon your voice. What is safe does not require your truth to be overpackaged. What truly has capacity does not need your pain translated 1,000 different ways before it takes your humanity seriously. So stop over-explaining. Not because your words do not matter, but because they do. And sacred words deserve a place where they can be received with reverence. So here are today's B.Fly metamorphosisms. Let them meet you where they need to meet you. I do not have to over-explain what my body already knows. My clarity is enough. My no is enough. My need is enough. My boundary is enough. I release the belief that my truth needs a permission slip. I release the habit of making my needs smaller so someone else can stay comfortable. I release the fear that I must explain perfectly to be worthy of respect. I can be clear without being cruel. I can be brief without being cold. I can be kind without making my boundary negotiable. I do not turn my no into a maybe. I do not turn my boundary into a suggestion. I do not turn my pain into a performance. I do not audition for empathy. I do not beg anyone to recognize my humanity. I allow my words to be simple. I allow my truth to stand. I allow my body to rest from repeating itself. What is aligned can receive my clarity. What is safe can hear my truth. What has capacity does not require my self-abandonment. I trust myself. I choose myself. I stop over-explaining, and so it is. This metamorphosism was inspired by the frequency of stop over-explaining. I hope this frequency found you not in defensiveness, but in relief. Not in silence, but in clarity. Not in the fear that you have to explain yourself perfectly, but in the sacred remembrance that your truth is allowed to stand without begging for permission. Because what is clear does not need to be begged into understanding. No. So today's tarot highlight is the Queen of Swords. And no, we are not entering the Queen of Swords as a card to explain. We are entering her as an archetype to embody. The Queen of Swords is clarity with discernment. She is truth with clean edges. She is the part of us that can speak plainly without abandoning compassion. She does not use words to manipulate. She does not use silence to punish. She uses truth to create alignment. The Queen of Swords reminds us that clarity is an act of care. Because when we speak clearly, we stop asking the body to carry what the mouth refuses to name. So today, the Queen of Swords is asking, where have you been over-explaining what is already clear? Where have you been making your no sound negotiable? And what truth are you ready to let stand without adding another paragraph? Breathe that in and let it settle where it needs to settle. If you want to go deeper into this work, listen to Arcana 22 Initiations. It's available on most streaming platforms. And if you are really feeling this frequency, please follow me, Venus B.Fly, or the Venus Butterfly Collective on your favorite social platforms for more transmissions, rituals, and metamorphosisms. And while you are there, please share, like, follow, and subscribe so that you can stay tuned into this frequency. Because the next time we will be entering the 12th transmission of what Venus taught us while she was transiting about in Taurus. And that is leave silence alone. Because silence does not always need pursuit, interpretation, or repair. So, all right, metamorphs, I thank you for listening. Please know that I see you, I feel you, and I sure do appreciate you. The temple is now closed. Let what resonated stay with you because you already know you don't need to hold on to the rest. Stay present, stay aligned, stay grounded, and I'll meet you right back here in the frequency.
Venus because he visited me soft as a spell. I blew, I breathe, butterfly energy. I don't chase, I receive. The Venus because